So capacity. Amanda, what did you mean when you put capacity right there?
So in this situation, I'm talking about capacity, what the kid's capacity is, and how their capacity or their resources they have available to them at the time is what's going to determine a lot of times how they respond to things. So this was really helpful for me to think about this way. And you do a beautiful job of talking about this, like bandwidth or energy, or like how much charge you have in your battery. These are all great ways to say the exact same thing, which is what is the child's actual ability in that moment based on lots of other factors through the day that have gotten you to this point. And if they have a low capacity or a small narrow bandwidth, or their battery is really drained because of all these things that impact them, then they're not going to respond in the way that you may think of as the ideal response. They literally can't. It's not they won't. It's they literally cannot respond that way.
Hey, let's do a little game, okay? Let's brainstorm together, take turns going back and forth saying, what are the things that influence bandwidth? Ready?
Go. Okay, I'm ready. Hunger.
Thirsty.
Tired.
Too many demands.
Great one. Too much visual input.
Tired from taking direction from a teacher all day.
Great one. Loud noises.
Feeling scared.
Ooh, yes. Feeling sad.
Being triggered.
Having an uncomfortable shoe on your foot.
Having a parent say no when you really wanted them to say yes.
Watching your little sibling get a birthday present when you're not getting one.
Oh, that's so true.
The worst.
Yeah. Not enough sleep.
Not enough stimulation.
Not enough play.
I'm stumped.
Not enough connection. Not enough connection.
Oh, that's a great one. I hit the end of my list. You win.
And attachment, right?
Yes.
So not feeling attached, because attachment comes more difficultly to you than to maybe other people. So that's a lot. And we probably only hit, I don't know, a quarter of them, because there are lots of reasons. There are lots of reasons a child's bandwidth narrows. So when you're looking at behavior in your child, you need to be asking yourself, well, what's happening? What's been happening around this child? What is their capacity right now? Have I asked them 3 things in a row to do? Then on the 4th time, they're refusing. They're just saying, no, I'm not going to do that. And you're like, what? I hardly, what? Why? Why won't you just go do this other thing? Because by asking them 4 things in a row, you just narrowed their bandwidth. So they did pretty well for the 1st and 2nd, maybe even the 3rd time, but the 4th time, flipped out. So that's how you can see the bandwidth narrowing. And it's really important to be watching for that, because really that's what it's all about. When we talk about therapeutic parenting, we're talking about having the right lens on so that you use the right tools. And the right tools are, first of all, observing capacity.
Yeah. And I think a great thing to talk about here is attunement to your child, and knowing their little soft signals. We all know the big signals, but if we can start to pick up on those clues, like they sort of give you that 100-yard stare. That's a huge one. They're disconnecting from the moment for whatever reason. That's not like a snap your fingers in their face and say, hello, come back. That's not what we need in that moment. That's a big clue that they are nearing or at capacity, and they need compassion in that moment. I think some great ones are these kids that doesn't seem like they're at capacity because they're spinning around and bouncing off walls and like slamming into furniture. And you think, no, this kid's got energy that he needs to burn. That one is confusing. But that's another one where they're not in their core self. They're reacting to something internally, and they're needing that input for some reason or another. So getting curious and starting to really notice things that you think of as behaviors or being disrespectful as clues before you start asking for anything.
Right. So this looking through the perspective of the nervous system means you become a really good detective about what you're seeing in your child. So, I mean, you literally can look into the eyes of your child, and if their pupils are highly dilated, then you can know they're reaching capacity. If their body language is starting to stiffen up or tighten up, they're nearing capacity. If they're starting to push back, no, I don't want to, doing the opposite of what you're asking, they're nearing capacity. So we need to be thinking in terms of capacity all the time. And not only that, but we have to be thinking about our own capacity. Because when we are having a narrow bandwidth, we also might be hungry, thirsty, tired, exasperated, worn out, not enough self care, hurt, the same set of things. And if our capacity is low, then what we might find is that we have behaviors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like too loud a voice, kind of a mean tone, facial expressions that look like I'm going to murder you in your sleep, that kind of thing. And our children pick up on all of that. And now we have become part of narrowing their bandwidth. So we have to be noticing theirs and ours. So if we're hungry, we need to eat. If we're thirsty, we need to go get something to drink. If we need a little break, we need to go somewhere. And, I know that most of us spend our time in the bathroom hiding, and that's okay. If that's where you got to go to get a break, go there. Bandwidth is super important. Capacity is super important. And knowing your child is super important. So if your child comes home hangry every single day from school, don't let them get in the door and have more than one sentence out of their mouth before you stick some food in it. Right?
Right. There's an
Just
opportunity there. Stick some food in there.
right? Just offer a really lovely coming home spread for them and make that actually a nice connection time, right? Where they come home from school. Not where you pepper them with questions about how the day went, but more like, hey, here's some really great food. Which one of these do you like? Do you like the carrots? Do you like the raisins? What does the raisin taste like if you just hold it on your tongue for a minute? Just weird stuff you can do, which is total connection with kids, depending on their age, of course.
That's so important. And speaking of school's the number one in my life, the number one capacity drainer of kids. Just thinking of all the skills, all the self control that they have to use to get through a day, especially our kiddos who are just barely hanging on in an ideal situation. School can be incredibly taxing. So, back to like knowing our capacity and our kids' capacity, was a big one for me. If I started taking everything that they were doing or saying personally, then that meant my capacity was low. If their behaviors feel personal, I have low capacity. It also helps me to understand them better. Like, this is a great little tunnel or little lens we can look through. Wow, he was saying those things and I felt like he was attacking me personally. That is probably how he feels when he has low capacity and I'm just coming after him, one request after another. We can really take their perspective if we can just sort of find a lens to see it through based on experiences we've had. But yeah, school. Don't take anything they say personally after they get home from school. Don't
Right.
don't even listen to what they're saying. I feel like just like here's some food or a drink of water or your sensory swing or whatever your kid needs in that moment, because inevitably.
Exactly. And try not to jump on the hooks, right? So when your child comes home with a tone in their voice that's disrespectful, try not to jump on it. That's a hook. Don't jump on that. Just let it go. If your child comes home and they throw their books in the floor, just let it go, especially if they come home hangry. It's just that kind of thing where you just really see the behavior as a signal that they need something and they're just not, they either don't know it yet, or they can't articulate it yet. But if you see it every day, you already know what they need.
That's it. You've learned
Yep,
it.
that's it.
And
All right.
the next thing is compassion versus fear, which is basically what we just started to talk about anyway. We are needing to be in a place of compassion for the suffering, really, that they're experiencing. I use the word suffering. You could use a word that feels good to you. I don't know. What are words you use? See what that the kids are
I say
experiencing.
hurting. I say
Hurting.
hurting,
Yeah.
struggling, challenging, being challenged.
Those are great. Yeah. However you can frame it in for yourself that feels right, that sits well with you. But the kids negative responses and lack of capacity, if we can see their struggle in that moment and see it from a place of compassion instead of how it's either hurting or inconveniencing us, our lives, the rest of the family, that's how you're going to build capacity in both of you ultimately. If you can see them from a place of compassion and they can feel seen and understood and believed, most importantly, they will grow their capacity over time, knowing that you really see them and they don't have to always be on the defense, always be in protection mode, always be, like trying to defend that little bit of space that they need to just survive.
Right. And that leads us right into the concept of felt safety, right? So if we meet our kids with compassion rather than with fear or loathing, depending, if we meet them with compassion, with empathy, with understanding, with acceptance, with unconditional regard, because kids deserve that, then little by little, their fear of us, of adults, of the people who may have abandoned them or hurt them in their lives begins to melt away. And they start to begin to feel safe with us. And it's not that we're inherently unsafe as parents, but because we have all this power as parents and we're bigger and we have better insurance, one might say, then kids they start being fearful of us. They don't have felt safety. And so it's kind of a funny phrase, felt safety. What it means is the child feels in their mind, body, spirit complex, I like to call it, their mind, body, spirit complex. They feel a feeling, an experience of safety. So it has nothing to do with the roof over their head or whether they have cool clothes or anything like that. It has to do with just the everyday interactions they have with you, where your face is soft, your eyes say, I love you, you're the best thing ever, I adore you. That you have a smile on your face, you have a soft voice, a loving voice, right? A voice that says, hey, I'm liquid love right here. Come on in. And so that takes a lot, right? That takes a lot of capacity for a parent to do that. So there's a lot ahead about that. But what we're really trying to do in all the things we're talking about is create felt safety for our children
Yeah.
beyond the obvious things, right?
Right. In our next episode, we're going to be talking about how you can get into these moments where it doesn't matter if you think the kid is safe, it matters how they feel. And a lot of times, the things they're doing may be making us feel unsafe. So, this, here's a little complicated moment.
Mm-hmm.
How do I present a safe liquid love? I love that phrase. See, a safe, like just soft eyed, low and slow parent to them when what they're doing is actually making me feel unsafe. And that comes from building capacity in yourself and learning to trust yourself, which we're going to get to next week.